All right, this is Mr. Bedley, and I'm going to teach you in this lesson how to take notes. I've got the 5th grade social studies book here, and we're going to be starting on page 71. Page 71, this is Unit 4, Lesson 2, so turn to page 71 and have a piece of paper ready to go and see if you can understand how to take notes when you're reading something like this informational text. So we start with the heading of the whole lesson, who founded the colonies and why. So as you take notes, keep that in mind, that that's what your focus is. So at the top of your paper, you should probably go ahead and write who. Try to write neater than me. I'm using a tablet. It doesn't work the greatest. Who founded colonies? Ooh, not good. And why? Okay, so that's my big heading up here. And the beginning of page 71 up at the top says, set the scene. Why do people move to new areas? As you have learned, the resources and opportunities in North America attracted many settlers from Europe. But people moved to North America for other reasons too. What other reasons might Europeans have had for founding new colonies? So, obviously in this chapter, in this lesson, we are going to find out what those other reasons are that people moved from Europe over to the New World of North America. So that's just like an introduction. We don't really need to take notes on that. So let's go to page 72, and it says the English established colonies. There's a timeline at the top. Let's take a look at the timeline. I have a little map showing you where the colonies are in green there. It says 1607 Jamestown is founded in Virginia. 1620 the Pilgrims founded Plymouth colony. And so now let's start reading the text. The English established colonies. Thinking about that. The English, people from England, are going to set up a new place to live called colonies. Okay? European countries and settlers had many reasons for building colonies. Now that's the topic sentence. That's what we're going to be learning about in this paragraph. So let's go ahead and take a main point here. We know they're from Europe. Oops. We know they're from Europe. These are European countries and settlers, and they had reasons for building colonies. So let's put reasons. A little dash here, reasons for colonies. Okay, and we're not going to do that for every single sentence. We just want to make sure the main thing is, this is the main thing that kids just don't get. You want to understand what you're reading. Your notes are simply going to remind you of what you understood when you read. If you're not understanding it and you're just writing down words that you see on the page that you think are big words or important words, the notes aren't going to do you any good. Now hopefully you understand so far what the text is telling you. People came over from Europe and they had reasons for coming over here. They didn't just randomly get in a boat and come over here. It says countries wanted to gain wealth through land and natural resources. So the main point there is that they wanted wealth. Right? We don't need to get every single detail down. Hopefully you'll remember that if they get more land, they're going to be richer. If they get stuff that's in the new place, the resources like gold or, well, and we're going to read that coming up here. But like their home countries, some settlers also hope to grow rich by owning their own land. In addition, okay, so that's basically repeating from the last point that they're getting rich. In addition, some settlers came to the colonies to escape persecution for their religious beliefs. So that's a whole nother reason not to get rich, but because they needed to escape persecution. So let's write that on our notes. Escape religious, I'm going to put it as an abbreviation, persecution. That's where people treat you like garbage. They might beat you or take things from you or whatever, just for the fun of it, basically. They're treated, and the book says, persecution is unjust treatment. Others wanted a chance to start a new life. So here's the third reason. Start new life. Okay, so this is kind of our first paragraph, topic sentence. These are the reasons that the Europeans came. Wealth, escaping religious persecution, starting a new life. Now we go to the second paragraph. In the late 1500s, English monarchs or rulers began giving people charters to form different kinds of colonies in North America. Now, that's a little confusing, so let's keep reading on, and we'll come back to that, okay? In corporate colonies, the monarch gave control of the land and its settlers to a business. In proprietary colonies, control was given to a proprietor or group of proprietors, and these would be landowners, just single people that own the land. In royal colonies, the monarch kept control, usually through appointed officials. Okay, so I'm seeing three different ways that the English monarchs or the rulers gave people colonies. Okay, so let's put that down. So we're going to say this is happening in late 1500s. And what happened? The monarchs gave like colonies, lands for colonies. So let's just say colonies here, gave colonies. And again, hopefully you can write a little bit neater than me. And let's see, there were three types of colonies that were set up by these monarchs or the rulers over there. The first one was a corporate, C-O-R-P-O-R-A-T-E, and they were given to businesses, right? And if you don't understand that, it doesn't do any good to take notes. We don't need to put all the little words, but this should remind us when we come back and look at it that the corporate colonies were business-owned colonies. And then the second one was proprietors, and they're called proprietary. Proprietary, and those were given to proprietors, or let's just say individuals. And the third kind was kept controlled by the monarch. M-O-N-A-R-C-H, and those were, let's see, they had officials there that were in charge of them. They just appointed somebody to go over there from the government and run them. It says by 1752, monarchs had changed many corporate and proprietary colonies into royal colonies. So this is like a couple hundred years later, and this should not say 1560, 1500s. So we're going to say that in about 1752, and I'm going to say numbers 1 and 2 changed into number 3, right? Or royal colonies. Okay, so that's our first page. Let's do a little bit more. I'm going to erase all of this here. If you need to get more of it down, pause the video. Boom, gone. And page 73. Founding the southern colonies. Okay, that means establishing them or getting them set up. Many southern colonies were started as corporate colonies. Okay, so let's take a little quick note on that. Southern, learned about that in the last lesson. A lot of them were corporate. Okay. And John White founded a colony on Roanoke Island as a trading center in 1587. After starting the colony, White returned to England for supplies. When he returned to Roanoke in 1590, all the colonies had disappeared. No one knew what had happened to them. Okay, so that's kind of weird. We're not going to write all the details down. Let's just say Roanoke. What's the main point there? Roanoke disappeared, right? And then if you read it and you understood it, that this guy John White left and came back, then you'll probably remember that in this part about these southern colonies, this one called Roanoke. In 1607, the Virginia Company founded the Jamestown colony. Illness, poor food, and lack of discipline caused many hardships for the colonists. Less than half of the original colonists survived their first year in Jamestown. Then a new leader named John Smith created a strict rule that food should be given only to people who worked. Working together, the colonists built houses and learned to use the area's resources. After the colonists planted their first successful tobacco crop in 1612, the colony began to thrive. That means it was doing really well. Okay, so we have this next one, Jamestown. What are some key ideas on Jamestown that we learned? Well, there was a lot of illness and death, right? A lot of death at first. And then something happened. We had John Smith. And John Smith did what? He established some rules, right? He had to work for food. Okay, and then they had, and oh, by the way, this was in Virginia. Let's put that up there, Jamestown, Virginia. And then in 1612, oh, and this was in 1607. Let's write that up here too. Kind of cool to have the dates on there. And in 1612, they had a tobacco crop, and they were thriving. Notice I don't put down very many words, just enough so that it reminds me of what was going on and the main idea. Other southern colonies were founded as proprietary colonies. Lord Baltimore founded Maryland in 1634 as a place for Catholics who were persecuted in England. Like colonists in Virginia, some colonists in Maryland built large tobacco plantations. Okay, so we had, this is Maryland. Now you know where they got the name Baltimore from, right? Was set up by Lord Baltimore. You can write his name down. Of course, you can't read mine too well. You might want to look in your book. I'd have to pause the video to do that. And let's see, it's for Catholics who were persecuted in England. So let's put down, there's a lot of Catholics in Maryland. And they had a lot of tobacco there. So we go tobacco. All right, the colony of Carolina was founded by a group of proprietors in 1663. Over time, the region's rich soil and good harbors attracted many settlers. In 1712, the colony divided into North Carolina and South Carolina. These became official royal colonies in 1729. Now, there's a lot of details in there. I'm just going to say Carolina, the Carolinas, right? And they were proprietors. I'm going to put little abbreviation there. And they had rich soil, and they had good harbors. All right, and James Oglethorpe founded Georgia in 1733 for a different reason. He wanted to give English debtors, or people who owed money, a new start as farmers. Few debtors came, but skilled workers and others settled in Georgia. So Georgia was in, okay, let's clear this off. I have room to write about Georgia. All right, Georgia. Hopefully you can do it better than that. And Georgia was for farmers that were debtors. Debtors, farmers, okay? Oh, and it was founded by Oglethorpe. Let me write his name so I can remember. Oglethorpe founded it for debtors and farmers. They didn't get those, but skilled, they did get some skilled workers in Georgia. All right, so what I want you to do now is you're going to go ahead and read the rest of the chapter, which is just 2 more pages, and finish your keyword outline, putting down just the main ideas as notes on pages 74 and 75. So hopefully you'll do well on that. Let me know if you are struggling and you don't know how to take notes, and you might want to watch the video again. That might help you out as well.